You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
It's going well, man. Honestly, if I'm going to be transparent with you, I'm a little distracted and not for good reasons, kind of embarrassing reasons. I had a social interaction fucking like 5 days ago now. I'd like to tell you that it happened earlier today and I'm still seething from it. Like, no, it's been multiple days. I've gone to work multiple times. I've had a bunch of other things crop up, dude, I fight for a living and still I'm all pissy about that. So I'll just to get it off my chest and then we'll go to Warriors, promise. Although there still has not been a whole lot of Warriors news. So thankfully we can at least vamp with this social interaction. But last Sunday, I went to the Giants game with my daughter and we took the bike, which means we got to hit the bike valet line before we go inside. So we're sitting there waiting. There's a woman in front of us. And after waiting for, I don't know, like long enough, dude, 30, 45 seconds, long enough where this other person who wasn't in line probably had not come to the game with the woman who was in front of us, but they know each other, they see each other. And because of that, the woman lets the guy into the line ahead of us. So, maybe cutting, maybe not, whatever, the thing that happens all the time. And my daughter says something, nothing aggressive, but you can tell it's gotten the dude's attention. And so we continue waiting there, and that line happens to be right by McCovey Cove. So I turn to Kylie and say, hey, look, there's far less kayaks out in the cove today. And before she can say anything, the dude turns around and he goes, fewer. And I don't say anything, and he makes eye contact again. And what he's doing is correcting my grammar. He goes, there are fewer kayaks in the cove today. And I say, I preferred it when you were cutting us in line. And it gets, he says something, and I don't repeat. And then the woman he's with turns around and says, what's happening? And he goes, oh, this guy's upset because I'm correcting his grammar. I haven't fucking gotten over it, dude. It's been 4 days. I'm super pissy. And so here's the actual question. I mean, I will go through therapy and 100% it's not okay for that dude to have corrected me in front of my daughter or to deal with grammar in any fucking way. That's not even the question. My question to you is, what are the cut rules? Like if they had come together, right? Like they're on the same ferry or something, and she happened to get to the line first, like, okay, yeah, I get it. She's saving the place in line. But if they just knew each other, is that a cut? Like how what's the rule there, man? Like am I justifiably pissy that the guy got put in front of me?
I think you are justifiably pissy because of all the shit that happened afterwards. I think in general, if you know somebody in line and it's not like, we're all going to get on the ferry or whatever it is, I'm okay with that kind of behavior. If it's a giant piling on, all of a sudden there's 10 people, and like groups are merging and like, hey, everybody come here. That's some bullshit. But you have to understand that there's a little bit of a social contract that is like, okay, we get it, you're friends, like we all know what's happening here, but then you have to be like doubly nice, afterwards. You have to be really respectful because like we're all sort of giving you a little wink opportunity here. I think it's bullshit that he then tried to correct your grammar in any context that's out of pocket, but in this one specifically, absolutely unacceptable.
I don't think I've ever been corrected and then like felt good about it. There's never been a moment I was like, oh, well, thank you. Thank you for saying that, dude. The next time I speak to my kid about the fucking kayaks, I'll make sure to use this phrase. So anyways, distracted, a little bit pissy, but I'm ready to talk about some Warriors, man. Let's jump in. And what we have is a golden question, one that kind of excited me and I've blown up. So as you know, Maxime, our golden questions are our mailbag. People are nice enough to listen, nice enough to write in and get us questions that always deal with the Warriors and sometimes get personal. I've only got one, but like I said, I broke it up. Here's the question. Quote, the Warriors changed the expectations last year when they went 12-3 during the first 15 games. Now that the schedule has been released, which it has, by the way, how do you think the Warriors will open the year this season? So I like this, man. There's some kind of rule that says when the schedule is released, you've got to make content out of it. Like we've been doing this long enough. And what it normally does is like you fucking drag your audience through 82 games and like try to dictate what that seemed boring and needless. But this idea of a hot start and expectations and what they mean did speak to me. All right. So if we've got the schedule, post it up here, take a look, tell me, man, what do you think during the first 10 games? You think, how will the Warriors open this year?
critically, almost the only way that we can answer this question is by knowing whether or not Marcus is right and that we signed D'Anthony Melton.
Yep.
Because if we have him on the roster, we're going 12-3 over the first 10 games. That math adds up, because that was clearly the secret sauce last time.
And he'll
But in
still be
all,
healthy, and we can guarantee he'll probably be playing in those first 10 games. So that's an
right,
upside.
it's exactly right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, who needs Steph, right? We can sit Steph until the playoffs, so long as we have a healthy D'Anthony Melton. This is not an exciting way to start the season. In fact, I would consider it a pretty brutal start to the season. If you told me that we end up 3-7 after the first 10 games, frankly, I would not be super surprised. I'm going to hedge Homer optimism and say 5-5, but I say this is a pretty brutal start.
Dude, there's a weird amount of fucking back-to-backs to open it up here. So we've got the schedule pulled up. They start at LA, then it's Denver, Portland, Memphis, Clippers, Milwaukee, Indiana, Phoenix, Sacramento, Denver. But the second and third game, and then the fourth and fifth games are both back-to-backs. I mean, I guess it upside to do that early in the year before body seems like a weird inclusion here. All hedge optimistic too. I mean, we'll see how the Warriors do. To be optimistic, I'll say like 6-4, maybe somewhere, but it's going to take some luck. And I tell you what, here's what really stuck out to me about this is the word expectations. And I'm going to use a silly old movie that I recently watched to kind of explain where I'm coming from. So in like mid 80s, I think 84, 85, there's a movie called Major League. It was about a group of lovable losers. They played for the Cleveland Indians, and they go on the kind of sports journey that an 80s sports movie normally would do, and they win at the end. And I remember seeing this movie really young, and I remember the final scene where everybody's fucking celebrating, and they're like hugging each other on the field, and the fans are going crazy. Well, I recently rewatched that movie this last week, and finished the final scene, and realized, I remember for the first time, that team didn't win a fucking championship. That team didn't even win a playoff series. What happens at the end is they win the final, like a playoff game in the end of the regular season, and they've won the right just to go to the playoffs. And what it really underlined for me is expectations. What you set your expectations for, what you hope happens during a year, then dictates your happiness level throughout the year. If that movie had set up, look, the Indians have got to win a championship, and they win that last game, but they don't go any further, it'd be terrible. It'd be super sad, but that's not what it set up. The conceit was if they make the playoffs, huge fucking win, and then they make it, and it's a huge win. So with that in mind, putting the expectations to this team for next year, what's something reasonable? What do you want to have happen? What will amount to a successful season next year in your mind?
So I think it's actually really helpful to consider the framework that you put up of the Major League movie, or I guess movies in general. I feel like there was never a sequel to Major League, right? There wasn't.
There's a terrible one. There
Really?
was one. It was terrible. And point of reference, they expand the expectations. In that next one, they go on to win a playoff series, and then they don't actually go to the World Series. Maybe they were planning a trilogy, and the second one was so shitty they never got there. But yeah, there was in fact a second one.
Okay, so you made my point. I didn't know that there was a majorer league. But here we are. This is exactly what I was trying to get at, right? Is that you set this up in a way that's like, okay, expectations are mounting, right? 2013 Warriors, right? Like, oh, okay, this is the early days. We're seeing something happen. It's like you can. It's exciting when you're on the ascendancy. This is a very, very different thing. This is almost like maybe there'd be like Major League is like A New Hope in Star Wars, right? They defeat the first Death Star, but we have not defeated the Empire. Spoilers, by the way, for those who haven't seen Star Wars. But by the time. Mike is saying in the chat that there is a Major League 3. So, okay.
Great knowledge. All right. Good job, Mike.
Sorry, I got distracted by that. That's amazing. I'm going to have to go watch 2 and 3. Right, and so then by the end of episode 6, they've defeated the Empire and it's all that, right? Okay, so that's where we are now, right? 4 titles under our belt. That's Empire defeating shit, right? Like Dynasty, all-time record book stuff. So now what do we have left? I mean, sure, there were the prequels,
Yep.
but in terms of the chronology, then we do episodes 7, 8, and 9 that everybody fucking hates because you have to bring back Emperor Palpatine because there's no way to do anything bigger than what we've already done except for resurrecting characters that actually legitimately were dead because somehow you can explain it and then she's his grandson, daughter, and all this bullshit because, like, what the fuck else can you say? But, like, of course we would want to win another title. Of course we want the Jedi to win all over again, but we've already done that. So, I would say that if you look at it in a vacuum, right, and you say, oh, okay, I didn't really care about this team at any point. I'm just joining in right now. I hear Steph Curry is awesome. I just watched him, play in the Olympics, and now I'm a fan of the Golden State Warriors because of it. You say, I just want to root for this team. It would be awesome if they got a playoff series. I think that's reasonable expectations in a vacuum. For me, I'm so, like, tempered by having watched episodes 4, 5, and 6 already that I struggle to say anything short of, frankly, a Western Conference Finals berth would be a disappointment to me because my expectations generally are now so high for a Steph Curry-led team.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of does past success help you hedge expectations is an interesting one. And also so I want to say expectations for this year are similar for me for last year. I want to say if they get to the second round, if they have a healthy team and are in a 7-game series in the second round, I'll be happy. And if we can somehow get there, then fantastic. Whether or not that'll be enough to satiate the masses, I don't know. And that kind of hits exactly what you're talking about. The expectations are super subjective, man. They're personal. And they're based on your experience. So, like, my experience, the majority of my life, this team has sucked ass. There was a period of time where they were dynastic, but overall, like, just making the playoffs at all was like this huge aspiration. And so now that we've kind of, knocked back down to the mean, fuck yeah, let's, fine, let's make it to the best. But there's another group of people out there whose main experience is these guys are world beaters, and going back, taking a step from that dominant dynastic approach is going to be hard for them. And so we'll see. I mean, I think it's up to everybody to set personal expectations. And I'll tell you what, let's expand this. Okay. So look, transparency for me. On one side, I always want to be honest and tell you guys how I feel, and give you an expectation that is real and actually fits with how I'm thinking. But fuck, on the other side, this is a public thing. This is a microphone I'm speaking into. I know I'm talking to Warrior fans who want us to be optimistic. And so I kind of want to hedge on that side too. A portion of me wanted to say, you know what my expectations are? Title, Maxime, like, let's go, but I also want to be honest. And if that's true for us on a Warriors podcast, imagine what it would be like for the players, for like, if you brought out Steph, if you brought out Kerr, you brought out Draymond. And so that's what I want to do. Okay. I don't have them waiting in the wings. It's not like, oh, here comes Steph, but we can, play a game. We can guess. So here's the idea. I'm going to give you a player's name. We're going to guess what they would say if they had to answer the same question. What's the expectation for next year? But we're going to break it up. What would they say publicly? And then what would they actually be feeling? What would they be hoping for? Here's our first name, Steve Kerr. All right, start publicly. What would Kerr say the expectation is, the goal is for this season?
Playoffs. I think he would say just getting probably out of the plan, right? Top 6 seed, I think, is what he would say.
I think he does that coach speak, uses his considerable media experience and says something like, our goal is to reach our potential. He's not really committing himself to anything. And the insinuation is, title, but he's not actually fucking saying title, so like sets it kind of up here, but isn't giving anything definitive. What would he actually feel? If we got hammered with Steve Kerr and he just had to tell us like what he hopes happens, I think what he says is, I just hope this fucking JK thing blows over and we're healthy. We're healthy and we've got a shot at the playoffs. Like beyond that, I've won 4 titles, man. Like I've done what I needed to have done. Our position in the Hall of Fame is completely solidified. Just get me through this early portion and let's see the postseason. What do you think? What does he actually feel?
I mean, fair enough. I think it's he's not a development coach, right? So you could see a world in which he's like, oh well, it would be awesome to see some of the young guys develop, but I think it is hard.
Definitely not saying that. No, dude.
Interesting. So maybe it is more about like what Mike is saying in the chat. The expectations 45 to 47 wins, right? Maybe the coach's mindset really is like one game at a time. Let's just see what we can get there in a loaded Western Conference. A guy that's been both a player and a GM that knows how to win at the highest level. I think he's got realistic understanding of what it takes to be a competitive team in this landscape. And maybe he's just like, hey, if we can get above 45 wins, that's gonna be a win overall for the season.
Do you know how ballsy and how incredible it would be if Steve Kerr in some opening training camp press conference came out and say, you know what my goal is? Just to develop the young players. It's like, that's always been my goal. Oh, that's what I care about the most. So we're 100% just going to be developing people. All right, to our second name, Draymond Green. All right, what does Draymond Green say? And then what does he feel? I'll take this one first. What does he say? Draymond says, we don't have shit left to prove. Like he would hedge it. I think he'd say, look, I've got, what are my expectations? I expect us to be really good. I bet you he'd even push it further, just because, not to please the masses, just as kind of an FU to everybody. The same way he did last year when he guaranteed that they'd win a championship once Jimmy joined. But I think he would hedge it with, also, we don't have shit left. There are no expectations because we've already met all of them.
That sounds about right. I think he might say it a little bit more in the context of trying to say it directly to Shaq or Charles Barkley in an effort to basically position himself for the next era. As TNT moves over to ESPN, maybe he's also trying to get that seat, knowing that he's coming to the end of his timeline. Nothing left to prove on the court, but maybe a lot less to prove, or a lot more to prove, I should say, off the court for his media career. How
does he actually feel? In his heart of hearts, what does he think a realistic expectation for this year is?
You know what? I just remembered, which is a ridiculous thing. This is how deep we are into the offseason. And it's, I thought about it earlier today, but in this moment, I was thinking about Draymond circa 2021, 2022, right? Like, and that's a little bit, I think, a reflection of how I and maybe the fan base is feeling right now, of a little bit of desperation in this limbo of JK not being there. This is an amazing squad, right? With actually a lot of positions to fill around the margins that hopefully are going to happen shortly after we deal with the JK situation. Which is to say, on the top of all of that is Jimmy Butler. I think Draymond in his heart of hearts really believes that this is a championship team. I think a competitor of his caliber that is like willing to punch Rudy Gobert at any turn, anything that he can do because he gets so fired up, really truly believes that a team that is helmed by him and Steph Curry, watching what they did with Jimmy Butler and that level of IQ, it doesn't matter if they're 50 years old, that's a team that can win a championship. I do believe that he believes that this is a championship caliber team.
I love that. Also, I disagree. I think what he secretly believes is what I said. We've already done it. Who gives a fuck? We've got nothing left to fucking prove. Like I've got rings. I've got a future. I've got nothing left. And if you had to bet on himself, I think he would bet that they were successful, but I don't think he would put any expectations on himself. I love this take from DV Dre, definitely predicting a three-peat. He could. I don't know what made me think of this, and I was so close, Maxime. I almost made it through a fucking episode without using the phrase JK, but here I am again. I'm going to complain about this. All right, not a shot at JK. Okay, shot at what's frustrating me about this current scenario. If I'm being honest, and I telegraphed this a little bit during the year last year and then towards the beginning of this offseason, but I was expecting a big jump in the talent level for Golden State heading into next year. And I guess the connection here is I thought my expectations were going to be a lot higher. And the reason I thought that is I thought two big things were going to happen this offseason. I thought we'd get an infusion of unexpected, maybe young all-star talent, aka JK reaches his potential next year. And I thought the Warriors were going to be on a really short list, 4 or 5 teams at most, where when players who still have a lot left have made all the money that they're going to make and that they need make, and it's already in their pocket, and all that they're interested in now is success for whatever reason, to finish their resume or to turn around their career, we would be one of those teams they would be willing to consider, and if they'd come. And now that this JK thing has happened, and again, I'm not blaming him, it's just this scenario that they have been unable to sign him. And we know for sure that until they do that, they can't sign anyone else. They've lost all fucking three of those. It's like whatever happens with JK, the idea of banking on him being our next new young all-star feels gone. And this time that we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for it to resolve, all those dudes, the people who are considering the other teams, they pick the other fucking teams. Look at the Lakers. Ayton is one of those dudes. He still has a bunch of talent. He's gotten paid. He needs to resurrect his career with a successful season. I think we would have been on a short list there. He went to the Lakers. Marcus Smart, same thing. A guy who's had success, a guy who has made money, a guy who needs to rehab his image. Could we use a defensive-minded fucking tough veteran like that? Yes. But while sitting around doing nothing for all of this time, paying the price for whoever created this situation, it just sucks, dude. It fucking sucks that we're still waiting for this. So there's the JK rant I was hoping not to give, and I've given it yet again.
Do you want to go farther down this rabbit hole, or do you want to move on? I think there's some interesting conversation happening in the chat. This is a lively chat. Y'all listening not on YouTube should be joining in. I mean, it starts to get into sort of more of the CBA minutia, or an indication that what's happening. I guess maybe I'll just speak more from Mike, right? That it's this idea that the CBA is rewarding internal development right now. By sort of shrinking the amount of star potential you can have in terms of the number of people on the team. And you see that Golden State was really screwed in the moment that the CBA hit. So now we have to move into this thing, and we're sort of behind the eight ball by not having developed internally enough. But I also feel like JK was, even though I was advocating for him, and look, we were picking 7th, right? That's actually a very tricky spot to pick. I know it's still lottery and all that, but like, we picked for the best talent when this team, led by Steve Kerr, organizationally speaking, is much more of a high IQ team than an athletic team at its core. And I think we sort of missed the mark. And same thing with Wiseman, right? In all of these situations, we picked thinking, oh, well, this is the best player available from a talent perspective, but not really from a culture perspective. And I think it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. But JK was just the wrong choice from the beginning, especially with Steve Kerr. And so now here we are, it's just like we're doubly screwed, because not only do we need to be developing internally, and we're not, but we also couldn't develop with the type of players that we had, because that's not our team's fabric in the first place.
The last take, promise. But the other thing that's frustrating me from the outside, and who knows, man, I do not know what's happening in the internal conversations. I never have. All of this is just conjecture. We don't know. We're just commenting on what we're watching. Yeah. But it seems to me they entered this year and they knew, like, at some point they're going to reach a deal. I mean, Kuminga is going to make a decision one way or the other. He has to, whatever it is, and we know that until that decision is made, everything else is on hold. And then the reasons why they haven't been able to make a deal, I don't know, but you can guess they're probably emotional. They're probably not business related. There's some emotions that are flying around that are preventing these guys from making the move. The thing that I am frustrated, and maybe I can put this on the Golden State's organization, is that no one's been able to fight through that emotion. Is that there hasn't been a conversation to be like, we've got a decision's going to be made. So, and I get that you hate me, I get that, but let's put this shit aside, take the emotion, put it to the side. Let's get through this part, so that everyone else can go on with their career. You can go be successful. We can bring other people in. That they've been unable to do that they've just spent this entire offseason staring at each other with the middle finger. It's like, I get it at some point, but like, let's move on. Okay. Back to the framework here. Our last name, Steph Curry. All right. They ask Steph Curry, what should the expectations be for this year? He says something and he thinks something. What does he say? What's the outward facing take from him?
He's the mouthpiece of this organization, right? So you can't say too low and you can't say too high. So I would, second round, right? Something, or maybe not even, actually, I take that back. that probably is what he needs to imply on behalf of the organization, but he's not going to be that specific. It's going to be something more like, hey, this team's in a great position to win. We saw what Jimmy Butler, Draymond, and I did over the second half of the season after the trade deadline. Expectations should be sky high because this is an incredible roster. The best front office in the whole league, all of that sort of thing. There's no reason to expect that we should be doing anything but competing for championships.
Yeah. I think Steph does something similar to what Steve Kerr would do, but with different rationales behind. So I said with Steve Kerr, he says something kind of innocuous. Our goal is to reach our potential. And really he's saying that as coach speak because he doesn't really believe that they're going to win, but he wants to keep expectations up. He put that out there. I think that Steph says something similar. What he wants the goal to be is just to give ourselves an opportunity, something like that. But when he says it, really what it's showing is that background fuck you killer in his mentality. That when he insinuates, I think we can win a title, it's not to please the masses. It's because he thinks they can win a goddamn title because he secretly believes himself to be the best player on earth, and I think he's proven it, and I when it comes out that way, we've drawn this distinction. What would he say? What would he think? When he said it, he'd be thinking the same thing. If we give ourselves a chance, if I am healthy, if Jimmy is who I think he is, if we do sign Horford, if Melton does stay on the team and able to play on the floor, then I really do believe we have a shot at a championship. I don't agree with him, as I said early on, but I love that. I do think that he believes that.
I think you're right. And I think, like you said, he has every reason to trust in that belief. I talked about the Olympics before, but those were not guaranteed wins, right? Both against France and against Serbia were down to the wire. And it was largely him calling his own number and saving the United States, right? So if you put a team in contention, a team close to that, Steph can take you over the top. And there's no reason to think that with the type of basketball that is elite and able to, to be played by Draymond and Jimmy, there's a reason to be optimistic. Now, I think ultimately where it comes down to the problematic areas that are going to keep us from actually winning is more on the defensive end than on the offensive end, especially with the age on this roster. Right? It's going to be hard for us to keep up with some of these younger teams, but.
The Olympics is a good example of that unfathomable confidence. Moses Moody was on a podcast recently and they asked him, what makes Steph so special? And so I'm not even talking about the shooting. We know. And he said, the thing that sticks out to me is that he's a fucking gangster is the phrase he used. And what he was talking about is his next level confidence and who he is coming into a game. And what a great example with the Olympics. Think it's not, don't start the story with Serbia and France. Start the story on the run up. He couldn't make a shot, Maxime. They made a joke, right? It wasn't Ant Edwards say, he finally arrived at Serbia. But what the joke was underlining is he was 0 for 1,000 heading into those games. And then when the country was in trouble, when this sport that we've identified our athletic success is slipping through our fingers, we're going to fucking lose. The everyone's legacy is at risk. Steph, who hadn't hit a shot, decided, no problem. Give it to me. I got this too. Absolutely no issue. The amount of confidence required to do that is fucking wild. And that same person could look at a roster that lost in the second round terribly without him last year and think, you know what they were missing? One guy. No problem. Of course they lost. They didn't have fucking me. And so, I hope that ultimately goes. What would you do? So let's say they came to you in your job and for God knows what reason, they're like, you know what, Maxime, we are giving a press conference and we're going to you. We want to hear about what you think the expectations for your work this year should be. How would you handle it? Would you go pie in the sky? Make yourself sound really good? Would you try to keep expectations grounded? What's the move?
What do you mean? God only knows why they would go to me. I take offense at that at any level. We've already talked about how I can obviously play on this team. But actually, in all seriousness, what is my role here? Are we saying I'm the coach, the GM?
Not the team. I'm talking about in your job right now. And the God only knows is not why they go to you, why we're giving a fucking press conference for jobs that people don't follow in the news, right? But if they did, if suddenly you're giving a press conference, then it's just for your day-to-day job, and they're like, what should the expectations for you be this year? What would you do?
I We've talked about this team. I think about everybody else with such objectivity, and then I never learned these fucking lessons for myself. I would absolutely go pie in the sky because I've done it over and over again. And then when I inevitably fall short, I'm like, well, shit, that was a dumb call. I should have under promised and over delivered. But there's an indication of my level of optimism in myself and the types of work that I do.
Mine would be all momentum. Like I'd come in with a plan of like, let's keep expectations low. Just want to meet my potential. I think we've got a good team. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but let's give ourselves an opportunity. All that shit we were saying before. And then there's enough people in the crowd nodding like, oh, I like that. Off I go. Like off like, well, I want to set a personal record and a world record and a record of sales that no one has ever seen. And I'm going to win and like, as people would just be nodding. Yes. And I wouldn't meet any of those things, but I would definitely throw them out there and then disappoint, but there'd be an exciting 30 seconds there for sure.
And then somebody would correct you on your grammar, and all of a sudden you'd be screaming.
Fuck that guy. Right when I was feeling better, Maxime, get the 30 minutes of therapy, and then you throw me deep into the PTSD again. I hate you now, in addition to that filthy cutter. The most important portion of today's show is thanking our brand new Patreon members, and I'm hoping that you have their names because I did not pull them up.
Shout out to both Mike and Layla joining us at the Run TMC tier, which means that they get access to the ad-free feed. We also had Christina join us a little bit ago at the Dynasty tier, which means she's getting access to all of the perks, including show notes. The Patreon cruise keeps growing week by week, and we're super, super grateful for everybody's support. If you haven't joined in, $4 a month gets you access to the ad-free feed directly on your own. It's just in any podcast player. You use Apple Podcasts, you use Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can get a dedicated feed free of ads. You're giving that money directly to us instead of to the sponsors. We appreciate you listening either way, but shout out specifically to Mike, Leia, and Christina for jumping in and supporting us on Patreon.
We love you. Welcome to the family. We do appreciate everyone listening, but we appreciate the Patreon members more, maybe way more. It's easy to join us. You are allowing this show to continue. It really does mean the world to us. So thank you. With that in mind, go Warriors, and hopefully we'll see you real soon.